Right. So we were holding, as far as I remember, I think we were even maybe a little bit further, but I think this is a place where we can come in. We began the new Hemshech of Shavuos, Tov Reish Ayin Daled, and we completed the first Maimah, where Tzlei Shashuim, that we completed. And we began Vaydaber Elokim es kol hadvarim ha'ele, and we got down towards the end of the first os in that Maimah, Omed Tov Ayin. In other words, Tov Samach Tes, going over on the Tov Ayin. That's approximately where we're holding. Yesh Lema, that we even got a little bit further into Tov Ayin Aleph, but that'll be a point where we can come in. So we were talking Beklau about the Inyan van Reimamus, about the concept, the Inyan Reimamus in Elikus L'Maila, and in the Inyan of the Hevdel bein Toihu L'Tikun. The Nakuda being that the Behabi Mekemes, it's Mavoya, as it were, the Inyan or the Chsoran or the Koyach in the spheres of Toihu was Davke the Reimamas. And since each one was in a state of Reimamas and Keser Liatzmei, therefore it wasn't able to be Seivel, the Metzias Zulasa. Since it wasn't able to be Seivel, the Metzias Zulasa, therefore there was the what you might call the Yisnakshus, or the Yerida Alidei Shvira, from one Metzia, from one sphere to the other. And so the kasha was that we began this Maimah, we also hinted at it in the sof of the previous Maimah, that l'chayra, the Inyan van Reimamus, if we take it in the Tzemasa Bio, then the shleimus of the concept of Reimamus means that the Makablim, Legavi the Marumam, have no error klal whatsoever. And he's not just Marumam Mizei be'oifen error. In other words, that he's a Godel ha'erach and they're a Kotan ha'erach, which would mean that there's still some sort of error. No, the Amitius Reimamus is Ein Arechem Havdalah Gemura from all the Makablim, and therefore all the Makablim Bo'if Shove Umashve have no error Legabi the Marumam. Yemot Bo'if Kozeh, we have a cloud that a Marumam is Nimshech Ela Shofel, despite his Reimamus and despite his Havdalah Gemura from all the Makablim, he's able to be Nimshech or Mesachik, would say. And they stand in a Bittul Gomo, Legabe, even Bittul called Metziusam. And therefore, since they're Bittul called Metziusam, they're a Kli to his Reimamus. And therefore, he's able to be Mesachik. That's l'chayra the Inyan Reimamus. As if that's the case, how does it fit with Toihu? We said the spheres were Inyan for Reimamus, as if Amiti is Inyan Reimamus, if we come to do a Inyan Vanam. In other words, that they weren't able to be savels in other words, that each one had an individual Reimamus, and that Reimamus tended to clash and cause a Inyan what you might call Shvira or Heder, actors, Beineihem. Amami is Sherish Kol Yeridus on the Tzutzis, Kol Nefila in the Tzutzis, Nemtzach von them. Amami, the Rebbe said, alles that passed with the Amiti Sinyan von Reimamus. We have to say that there's Kilu, another Inyan in Reimamus, which is not a Reimamus Amiti. No, it's what you might call a Reimamus Agemachter. How do you call it? a reimamus which is not emes reimamus, and it's a inyan where the person feels, or the marumam, let's put it this way, feels his reimamus. In other words, that he mitzad is murgash bi'atzmai be'inan a reimamus, then he literally forces the reimamus after makabel. Now, Mamera is where he got another individual, another entity, which also feels that type of reimamus, then they can't be sevel, and they're a stira one to the other, and the Matthias of them is sevel, the Matthias from them. In other words, where it's not an amiti sinyan from reimamus, you don't really have a makabel. You don't really have makablim. You have nimsholim, people that are or makablim that are being ruled over, right? Mumusholim, I don't know how to use the expression. In other words, you have what's called memshola. Or you don't have the amiti sinyan from malucha, because the emes from malucha is that the melech is marumam be'etzem inyane. As if it's brought down on Gabi Shaul that he was shichmoi olamayla mikoloam, that he was marumam be'etzem mahusay, so that even the chitzenius amidas shaloi, what that's in from Shechem, were ein arech legabi the shari ha'am. I feel legabi the moichen haki alienim, or the kochas haki lailim, the shari ha'am. They weren't even better like chitzenius midesa. What is it? The inner von reimamus atzmias, and Miller does it the amiti sinner von reimamus. Maar shaking the reimamus von Teo was a reimamus bederach murgash. Therefore, it's a reimamus which mitzad hagoshes maalose alazulas. If the other one doesn't makabel his miler, they're not aware of it, then that's a pagia, and he snatches one to the other. That was Perak the Nakuda that we were getting at. The Rebbe was medactic to bring out that whole concept of reimamus, what he called the inifan reimamus atzmi, a reimamus mitzad the very etzem. Now that's not a reimamus hamayla, even though when we bring that dogma from Shaul, when we say that he was Afilu mitzad chitzenius medesov, he was ein arech like avishar ha'am, then that would tend to indicate he's got milas in his govis, that the milas should be ein arech like the milas that other people who were the subjects have. So that's not really the pshat. The emes of pshat is that reimamus amitius is a reimamus atzmius misug zeh, that it's ein areich, and b'derech mamera all the makablim b'shover umashve in the innen from bitulam hagomo v'heder tfisas mochim shalem gemura legabi the maruma. And so therefore that's what we call reimamus atzmius. Reimamus atzmius is the movement that the marumam is marumam kol kach, that it's not because of his milah, he's just legamri mechutz legidrom klal uklal. It's not shayt to say he's got himself a higher milah, and that milah is ain't already like the milah of ploying or feel habi ploying. And that's what we have to be careful to be medactic. And therefore we'll read the kitzah on page Tov Ayin, and that'll help us to move into the coming chapter. So he says, "V'hinei masha azulas nira lematzias, ein ze mipnei hamatzias shalei." In other words, when in reimamus bilti amitias, the other entity seems to be a matzias, and therefore it gets in the way of the matzias of the marumam. So the Rebbe said it's not mitzad the fact that he is a matzias, and his matzias is somehow or another disturbing the matzias of the marumam. Sharei keinu gam b'tikun. The fact that there can be makablim, what they do have a fila alpi amitius atoira, they do have some sort of a matzias, then that's a fact in all the madregas. The miyat tzimtzum who in a matzias, gam yeah, lifnei Atzilus. Even Lamaila Me'Atzilus, there are certain inyanim which al pi Amitius ha'inyan, they're called a Matzias kol shehi. V'kol shchein b'chinas Eilus v'kelim d'Atzilus. Yeah, v'chitzenius Amidas, yeah, heim b'chinas his pilot. Ein of them is pilot. And we mentioned over there in that chapter the inyan from Yedea Yadua. What over there the Rabbi told Bekitza, Nimratz, with a famous shiloh which occurs in Torah and Pasha Vayera, and it's brought down in many Makamis, and there's a famous sikha from the Rebbe in Pasha Lech Lecha in Chelek about the whole inyan of Yediyah versus Bechira, what the Rambam brings in Ilchus Tshuva Perikei. It's a famous classical shiloh that if the Eibusha knows everything, then how come there's Bechira? Isn't it?
I'm trying to record this song. That's for this shield.
Huh?
I'm trying to record this.
You're trying to put a call?
I'm trying to record the shield.
Oh, I see. Right. Fair enough. Isn't it? The union, oh yeah. So the union is in law madrigas. But that's already the union from the chitzenius at the midas of Atzilus. There's Kavayohu Yodea, that the Eivus Kilu learns and knows about what's going on, and that has an effect on a certain Kilu is pilot like that level of Elokus Hamatzumtzum. Over the Yin of an Elokus Shalamayla Me'atzimtzum, and Amitis Elokus of what's called Yodua. Everything is known to him in an even for Makif. This is well known in Mavua Bahabi Makim Sinsarat. So the Rebbe said, those two levels where it's already come down, but even Kozer that it's Shaya, but even to talk about our Inin of Machias, or that's already the Inin from Yodea. There we say that Elakus, Kilo Yodea. V'ila Yodua, that's the Inin of Elakus, Lamaila, and Dorit, there's not Shayat the whole Inin of Bechira, but Adarabba, there he knows, but he knows in an even from how they call it, Lamaila Lagamre, mi Chiluchi Madregas and Chiluchi Azman. Rach lifnei Hatzimtzum, Gam b'chinas Hashora B'koyach, Eina b'chinas Matzias. It's only before the Tzimtzum, even a thing which talks about Hashora, even a level where we talk about that we're looking outwards, as it were, and we're being Mashaya, the Madregas, which are later going to be, although it's not Eina from Matzias. Amamira, says the Rebbe, it's true that there is a inyan for Matzias. V'yesh b'chinas reimamas b'tikun b'chinas hakesa. And he said, Gam malchus b'chinas reimamas u'machaya b'chinas hamatzias debi. Yeah. So we see that the inyan from emes reimamas out is mitzad tikun. It's not a steer of the fact that the Makablim do have a certain gather of Matzias, and it's not mafriya to the inyan hareimamas. And it doesn't cause a shvira, it doesn't cause any. So he said, Racha Siba, what the inyan of the Zulus is near the Matzias, and that becomes a inyan of a stira, no problem. He said, the Racha Siba hi masha marumam u Matzias bi atzmai. That's the whole Nakuda. In other words, why does the fact that there may be a gather of Matzias and a Zulus which can be considered a disturbance, and an inyan which is mavalable, the marumam, or that is only when he's a marumam, but even show Matzias, his reimam is guf is the inyan for Matzias. And Mamela, since his reimam is but even show Matzias, it's not a reimam which is legam removed from the Makabri, because Gamein b'china Matzias. Just that he's, as it were, he's forcefully elevated himself into a madrega where he's higher than them, or at least Lafi Hargashasa, and Mamela, his Matzias and their Matzias can't come to terms. Therefore, the Yesh, Hareimam Asusha Marumam, Shemaruimim Atmei. Due to the fact that he makes himself Maruma. Is it Vialke, called over Tefus Mokim Matzias. Rachshema Vatelo, say he tries to be Mavatal all the other inyanim but they are Teifus Matthias. So here we see the Mitzad the Reimamus Amitius, there can be a dove which is Matthias, the Loma Valbo, Alpitora Cantana thing's got a Matthias. Aber Mitzad Reimamus Amitius, das ist nicht mehr Valbo. Aber Reimamus, which is Bepinas Asui, and it's an Indian of Matthias, Be'etzem Reimamus Atzmei. Therefore everything, and here we see, apart from being a Matthias, it's also even a what? It's nearer Bebchinas Matthias. Yeah? It appears to be everything, it looks to be, as it were, more of a Matthias and is Teifus Mochim, more than what it really needs to be. Because there can be such a thing as a Marumam, and the Matthias are not Mavalbohim. As far as where the Reimamus is a Murgish Biatmei, that Kilu creates a problem in the etzem fact that there's a Matthias, and that Matthias becomes a Dor Kilu nearer the Teifes. Rakshim Mavatlo, the whole time he's busy pushing down his potential opponent. He's all the time being Mavatlo there. ובבחינת רייממס עצמי, שזהו לא יהיה בבחינת מציאס בעצמי כלל, אין הזולס נראה למציאס כלל, וכלוי ממי. Obviously we're talking about Reimamus, which is mitzad very etem, or there he said he's not in a Matthias be'atzmei klal. Therefore, the Zulus is not near a Matthias, even though he may be a Matthias. He may have a certain Matthias al Pitorah, but that's not mavalbul the marumim klau because his Reimamus is not B'chinas Matthias. It's not in an Matthias dover. It doesn't clash with Matthias. So that's the in Bekitza that we were learning before the so-called break. So ask yourself the Shalom, what sort of a Geda is that? How is it tried to say that there can be such a Enif and a Reimamus, and a Emes a Reimamus, which is not between the Matthias. So Dafki mitzad the fact that it's not Matthias, therefore it's Reimamus Amitius, and therefore we have to say that what do you say that Al Pitor of Al Emes, the spheres or the Kelim and Atzilus do have some sort of Matthias? I feel like Gavi this from Maruma. We come to us. We have to say that he can even give them Matthias. Mitzad Goidel Ma'alosai, he can even be Ma'ashelehem Matthias, because willst a bisschen verzichten. It doesn't have anything to him. Einlas called Teufes. Ain't no Teufes, it's like cloud. If I'm going to ask the Shala, what we should do is, because the whole Inem from Reimamus is a yachastige Sache. I'm Marumam legavi something. Or if I say Reimamus, I imply that there's something else, or that there are other inyonim which are not Marumam. If that's the case, every Reimamus is a form of a Matthias. As if it's a Matthias, then at least Badach is another Matthias. Must be. It's only a question of the degree of how much it's Mavalvo. L'chera. And it's a dover. Man, was it this whole Geder? Was it the ganze in this Reimamus? There's Eino B'chinas Matthias, Reimamus Atzmi, and everything is bottled, but there's a bittel show, mashvim, what they're going to do. But if it seems to me that fact that the Rebbe brought in Yodea v'Yodua, he brought in the whole in of Bechira versus Yodea Lamaila, well, that's of interest, and that's got a certain shaykhs to these inyonim. V'Chaychachalakach in that tzich in Chelakei, which I don't necessarily challenge you to learn. That tzich was a very hard tzich in Chelakei. The whole Indian about towards the end, the whole page and a half or more about Yediyah versus Bechira, with footnotes as solche and with the solche inyonim, and this is mamish piliplois. And the Rebbe deals with it in his amazing way, from all sorts of different, amazing angles and different viewing. However, what he brings to at the end is how do you call it, a footnote right near the end of the whole Indian. Boy, the Rebbe says that what's the difference between Yadua v'Yodea, so-called, these all these chiluchim that we make. And I think the implication is that the so-called, the kasha is, can it really be any different than what's known in that Yadua? All right, so on the lower level, he chooses. Or Bibal is Yodea, I'm sorry, Bibal is Yadua, and he knows what's going to be. It can it be otherwise? I mean, it can't really be otherwise. If it can't really be otherwise, it's B'lavochin. יש פה איזשהו עניין של, יש פה איזה גדר של עניין של הכרח. If I'm in other places, it's muvua al kushia מסוג זה, it's muvua the עניין של נוירו עלילה על בני אדם. That's how you know. The whole thing is a trick. The whole עניין של ידיעה versus בחירה. And so, of course, that's what the Rambam gets to in his famous statement. It's all in for the money, you can't really know. In these, you have no musik. In the Eivisha, therefore, you have no musik bedaitoi, or yediot. And the Ravid gets very angry, and everybody breaks, and hin and her. Over so, this is the Nakuda. However, the Rebbe says over there that in the Rishonim it's Port Aloshan that the Eivishter is he's a Matthias, but Bebilti Matthias Nimto. Or the Rambam uses the expression Amitas Himota'oi. Amitasa Himota'oi. I mean, we see that the Rishonim are trying to hint at something. They're trying to say that the Eivishter is an entity. He's there. Fahan is there. But he's not at all in the form of Matthias, how we understand Matthias Klal. I feel in the highest, or even that you'll be Matthias or angel Matthias, who built him Matthias Nimto. In other words, he's Nimto, but he's not Nimto. He's just a Matthias. And I remember this Adora Pele was Enoch Hanami, the Seichel can't really be Toivis, Amitis. Musik, Vahezbe, Nimto, Bebulti Matthias Nimto. And the Rebbe says that in Azar level where he's Bulti Matthias Nimto, the Oifen HaYediyah is also in that Oifen. In Mamere, the Ein is a Kol Erech, a Kol Kesher, with the Inu from the Yediyah, Kamoishu. In Mamere, what you're talking about, the Akasha from Bechira, and the way you understand Bechira, feeling that level of good was already Yodea, but that's another Geder, where ain't a Kol Shayret. You can't be Makshiv Mizela Lazekla. Over I mean, Ksokos, also Mashikosu. Bahabi Mekimis Besilas. Over the Rebbe makes it even more Mudal, that's another Uilam of Matthias Klal Uklal Klal. And Lefi the Rambam, that's all I Kavanose, yeah. If I be Shintoas, that's what the Rebbe's Kilo Matayin did in one of the amazing Ha'oras. It's of course also the Kavanah from the Rambam Gamke. Ulai Yesh Loma, that it's also the Ini from the Noira Lilo al Bnei Adam. Why can't I mochen lahari bezeh? Berege zeh? Alab Chaponim Lefi zeh, kommt is het Bulti Matthias Nimto, is moedel behechlet door legamre afilo van Elakusa. It's got Ezeshu Sheiches Elo Ilamas afilo as even that it's not yet Sheich Elo Ilamas, but it's kilo eventually going to be for the sake of the Ilamas. Afilo in Madrigas geweest beyoyse, or the immediate Indian van Elakus and immediate. Atzmus is just completely and utterly another Indian altogether. And it follows that if we're going to say that the Reimamas is mitzadat matreka, there's not try to say that it's a Reimamas which feels itself, and it's just it's a way of its being aware of its Reimamas, saying a reich like be something that he does feel his Reimamas. It's a Reimamas in the very etzem, and that's what the Pshat he calls it Atzmi. It's completely another geder. And if everything is this bottle, betatlets ha beetle, b'matzias legabizeh. And if ha magbihi lashoves ha mashpili lirois b'shamayim over, or davki because of that tremendous magbihi lashoves, and therefore Ja, de ene van ons kochen. Proteus met elke makes sense. All the union makes sense. Because ain't it's like coal Bayabas, he's another getter altogether. He can just be wherever he likes around here, but ain't was a coal stira or teufels, it's like cloud or cloud. And Mama, das ist jetzt lemmer der Bibel that you're talking about, and therefore the Rebbe was maramas bederach po. Alleen maar derech, כמו שאומרים, the Rebbe was maramas alini van Judea here. You do. I mean, everybody's got some sort of a kidum that leads me further into the milim and into the pirush that in Eishu who miskadem behemsha. If we even to more dafki doses around here. Yeah. We're also going to see another dogma of that, and in the coming chapter, also we move in with a certain kilo inyan. Is we have to say that these inyanim amakadem the whole hasoge pnimius of what were, even though that in itself is not really the main issue. Now the Rebbe begins, Va'inin Lamaila in Reish Lamed Beis. I had to be a little bit married to get us back on the track. Zweitens is to try and, be Al-Chaponim Magdir, the Indian that we should know when we keep talking about Rei Masatzmi and all these, on what level, Beis Yu'even and Alakus are we talking? Va'inin Lamaila u dehine abitul de tikun beklal hu abitul be'etzem hamatziyus. Shezehu inyan rach kakone v'kosher ke'erez. Now that's the Gemara Masechta Tainis. Well, the Gemara says le'olam yehei adam rach kakone v'al yehei kosher ke'erez. That a man should always be soft like a weed. He should be flexible like a weed. He should be able to bend.
Reed, maybe.
Reed, I'm sorry, not weed. Yeah, reed. You're right. Yeah, 100%. Like a reed, and not kosher like a cedar tree. Yes, a cedar tree, kosher cedar is referring to toihu. The inif tikun is rach kakona, and the inif rach kakona means you can bend it any way you want. You can literally, it's nitan. The kol ifanim of natia of afiri mahaperet and folded back to front because that's the Indian from rachus be'etem amatziyus. The midas de toyu beklolos ein bechinas amatziyus, or midas de tikun ein beklolos bechinas bittel amatziyus. They're the Indian from bittel in etem amatziyus. Now here we're going to meet up with this Indian what we just said before. They are amatziyus, and particularly we saw in the previous chapter that the kelim of atzilas already an inch matziyus kimat, but even show avona pursued in amatziyus. What do you mean by saying that they're beetle? Yeah, be'etem amatziyus. Yeah, beetle be'etem amatziyus. So therefore he says, ve'imi yesh b'zeh madreges Shahim b'chinas hamatziyus. A commotion is boiling of Perek Reish Lamed Aleph. That was the Perek we just finished. The gam midas the tikun heim b'chinas matziyus do. Yeah, now he didn't say moichin so much, but midas upon him. He said they're already ainim for matziyus. And one of the inyonim is that they're a moki after ainim for ashpoah into biyah. They're already beginning. The seder of the ashpoah, it's going to go down into biyah. And they're already on ainim for matziyus. Okay, my mishu, sorry, said mikol mokim beklolos ubchinas bitul be'etem. They're bottle be'etem, even though they're amatziyus. Now here's an interesting one. Ukemoi mishu hu beteva horach, like a mensch that he's beteva horach. In other words, he's a softy. Not a softy in the unpleasant sense, but he's in the weak sense, but he's a very easy person to deal with, and he takes everything, and you can be give him a bitush, and anything you like, and he'll just take it, and he just goes further. And Mamera said the Rebbe, that's a very interesting sort of person. Shu, Peter's beetle be shiftless, be etzem a shalai. And he's very etzem a he's a shiftless dick man. He's exactly the hyper for looking for being teufus up to chashivas by people or wanting to stuff himself by his away. On the contrary, he's a son of it, but he can't take that and all those sort of inyonim. So says the Rebbe, I mikol mokim, and so are we, Dimi yois, shu mikol mokim b'chinas matir. He said, so of course, he's also a matir. You can't avoid it. If you've gone down past Atzilas and past the Kelim of Atzilas, or already into Biyah, then everything's a matir. You can't possibly say that he's not a matir. He is. Als een nivra en als een entity in Zeho Ilam is een Matthias. En maar mitzad dat, we shayach boy aveda. Begins bitl ayesh. He's also got to do his own particular aveda from bitl ayesh. Mikol mochim hu botel be etem. That's a very amazing idea. That's a very piladikizah. And it doesn't have one to do. It doesn't have one to do with the other. Is that this mensch, mitzad his hargosha of his bittul to Elokus, and how much really the whole world is botel, his whole yachas to things which happen to him, and to things that occur, and mishoira ba'elam, and things what people say, and the whole even the fact that there's another person in the world, ayachas to others, well, that doesn't cause him any, how do you call it, what you might call problem, mitzad his matthias. He just, as evil plain is, or in other words, that the mensch is a bottle, the mensch, be'etzema matthias, even though technically an al pi etzema yachas to boire venira to Elokus ekshu lamayla me elamas ve Elokus ekshu selamata umislavish in the nevoy he's a matir who matir amamela mitzad that if he were to read a maimah an avodah dikamaimah which attacks the innocent from Yesh and Matthias and talks about bittul Matthias, then he also, if he's honest, he'll be able to find in himself that he's also a Matthias. But again, tell a coup. He said he's a bottle dika mensch, and his whole inyan is that he knows he's nothing, and his whole yachas to others, and his whole yachas to the world around him is even for nothing. Said the Rebbe, das ist die Nakuda an der Sphiras Araya in Atzilas. Mitzad etem minyonim legabi Elokus l'mayla me'atzilas, and legabi Elokus l'mayla me'atzimtzum, then there are Matzil, the Kelim of Atzilas, particularly the Chitonius are Kelim, are already a Gede, that have a Shaykhus to Ashpoy and Biyah, they're already a Matzil. He said, however, their etem hargosha biatzmom, and v'mela their etem yachas one to the other, and their yachas to the etem fact that they're a mashpia, is in an even for tachlis habitl. This is absolute bitl be'etem ha-mahut. So here we have to understand that there's also a dachas hagdora here. We have to be magdir. When we say spheres in Tuyu, and we bring the whole Moshe from Reimer, over there we say that each sphere is a initial Reimer. And then what the kasha is, why does that Reimer disturb the other sphere? Over here where we're talking in Tikkun, we say that in Tikkun, Rach Kekona, V'alte Kosher Ke'eles, or this is from Rach Kekona, it's hard to say that we mean that each sphere in Tikkun is Reimamas Amitias. And therefore, if you follow this Reimamas Amitias, that the father is Bittul B'Matzias. L'chera, Ulai Efshar L'Hamis Etega. Aber l'chera the Pshat is that in Atzilas, it's not Shayek the Indian von Reimamas, wie Paulus Atzilus is already Matthias. It's already shaykh into the Indian von Oilams, which are Beprinas Matthias. It's not shaykh the Indian von Reimamas al derech harogil in them, because if it were, her would also be Nitfas Beishu Indian von Matthias, because they're already in the Gerah von Matthias. Reimas Atzmias is the Gamri Lamala Mea Matthias. And therefore we have to say that the Mila of Atzilus is that it's Makabel, and it knows that its whole union is that it's a Makabel from Rimam and Samiti. And that's the difference between Tuyu, Vatikin in a, how do you call it, in a, what you might say, B'derech Haggadah, how would you say it, in a homiletic way, in a homiletic way. Yeah, we can say that the difference is that in Tuyu, everybody's a macher. In Tuyu, the diyun on Reimam is of Yedreina, of each one of them. In Tikkun, the diyun on Reimam is how you makabel the Reimam's atzma. In other words, it's not that the spheres in Tikkun, each one of them is a Reimam. No, the whole union of Tikkun is that you know you're a makabel. And like we saw at the end of the previous Maimah, the Rebbe used an expression that Yeshus is a stira to Reimamas. That Yeshu Matthias ain't a kli el a Reimamas klal. That's what we had in the previous Maimah. Where does any sort of Yeshus, that's not a kli to Reimamas. Yeah? Even the Reimamas built the Atzmi, avad it. Lefisa kommt deze Atzilus is de ene van Beetle beetzem, de ene van Bisbatlus, Amitius, hier beetzem Matthias. In Mamere, it's a kli. Yeah, it is your kli to the ene van Reimamas Amitius, and the Reimamas Amitius is only met de ene van de Maspir, not met de Spheres Atzmo. Geen je slimmer, dat is de pier. And therefore you can have both in your name. Yeah, you can have the mitzad echad mitzad der mitius geder ha'eloki, then they are a Matthias, or mitzad yediyosum ha'haragushosim bi'atzmom. Yeah, wo halten sie auf der Welt, to use the expression? Yeah, sie wissen, dass sie halten gar nicht. Und der Mann mishpotel, wo ein kol Matthias klar. Eidels was legabi, yeah, a Matthias dargis in Elokut ha'yarav, is was a Matthias. Zelo seise chadlem. It's a very rich idea. And the first is that if it's not of Shatter and Amos, a bottle to Chosid, he's not there. He is. And it could be he's got his own little weeny problems here and there with his own, Yeshus Lagabi Amitius Elokus. Okay. Zayn Nakudas, yeah, so-called so. How does he say in the famous passage there in Cholto? Yeah, the Rabbi Amitius Atzmius, even a way to Amitius is also Lechet Yechoshev Chassid. They state that. Well, that's an andere chesed. Of he said, in Beharagashose, or be Diose, he's bottled with that. Without kein Earth, nicht in klar. Therefore, he's able to be Makabo from the Roman Messiah. Atzmius. And I found not that, it's different, the Diyu how it is in Toyu and how it is in Tikkun. In Toyu, everybody's, that's the old expression, Dortz and the Alamachas. Over there they're all big Matthias and they're all clashing one with the other. In Tikkun, they call it Chassidim, in Tikkun, Pitteldik Chassidim, they have their own little problems with the Amitius Matthias over mitzad the Amitius Abitul, but Matthias Mamera Meir Behemin in a Reimamas Amitius. And therefore, the Indian Aishkalus is Kilmat Blimis Mispa. Yeah? And in Toyo, everything is just kilo. Oh, yes, we'll allow that also. In other words, it's one time round, it's brought down 10 from 10, Ishkalus Yedovins in Toyo. And I would tell us, oh yes, we can also allow in our, we can put in our, our book, in our publication, in our advertisement book, we can say, we also got Ishkalus. You want Ishkalus, over one time round. And what really is the whole work over there, the whole Mahalach, is Herigish Harimus, who said Herigish Harimus? The very fact that he's just Ephes was, I get it from Matthias, that gets in the way. In Tikkun, Mitzad, the fact that they are beetle, Matthias, Amitias, therefore there can be Meir Bohem, but even Shal Kli, the Mamish and Makabo, to the Amazorim. And if someone says that Rabbi Ach, however, Lafia Mavur, I must say that Ach bothers me slightly. I'd like to sort of be more clear in my mind. With Ach, because Ach means like a sort of a slight turn, it's like a slight movement in another direction. Ulai Yesh Leima, like we just said, that here we're talking about the Mekablim, we're not talking about the Mashpiyim, not about the Merumamim, we're talking about the Mekablim, for members of Merumamim. Now he goes back to Reimamas. Ach, he said, Lafi Amavua Khan, being in a Reimamas, you and Zeb Bechinas Ha'atzmas. We go up into the Indian, Ha'atzmas. In other words, in this little passage here, we weren't necessarily talking about that, but now we're going back to that. Shehu Bechinas Reimamas Atzmi Liyoisei Atzmi. In other words, it's Reimamas in Azasot Ta'ifan, that nothing has any error cloud due to the fact that he's Matthias Bebilti Matthias Nimta. In other words, the word Atzmi refers to that. It's another Geder of Matthias altogether, and that's the word Atzma. What the Inyan van Atzmas means, Etzem HaBoirei, what the Rambam says, Amitis Himotoi, we have no musig, really, Viazoi is that Inyan van Matthias, all we know that he's Nimta. And that's the lesson in the Rishonim, which is Mi'od Meduyak, Nimta B'Pchinas Bilti Matthias. Nimta. Amamire, V'harei, ein b'zeh inyan ha-Matthias klal chasve, sorry. In other words, Nimta is aber nicht mehr Matthias. Had he called Fahren is And on the contrary, that's what's written over there in Pasha Vayero, in the Torah, the Atzmus is, I don't know, Hamoyer Bizgal, he's everywhere, and there's no Shaykh in him, not Helam, not Killer, he's just everything and everywhere. But it's not a Init Sholmer, Matthias, Cholila. Omnom is a Begiluim. Oh, that's Atzmus Mami, Etzem HaBoirei. Aber in the von Giluim, in other words, Oirois, which are meir from the Atzmas, Zehu Baha'oyer, Shuvidas Gilu Ha'etzem. He said, the Sinyan von Reimamas Atzmi is also there in Giluim. It's also there in Giluim, aber it's in the Oyer, how he is, Bechinas Gilu Ha'etzem, V'kolul Bi'atzmusai. In other words, not that it's meir michutz la'etzem, pirush, our which is described in the Siddur as meir michutz la'etzem, in Yoni is lahoyi la'ezemarshal. Lahoyi to give its oil eventually to hamshocha ploinius le'inyan ploini. Ma'ashekin, what we say, kolu bi'atzmusai, and our oil which in Yoni is, puri, Gilui ha'etem. Remember, the two kilo go together. If it's kolul be'amitius b'toich atzmusei, then what do you call it there? B'toich atzmusei, it's a form of a gilui, but sometimes in some of our he calls that echoilas. It's like, it's not that he's really mamish megale himself, but he has a way, megale, the inyan of, how do you call it, kol yochel, the inyan from the echoilas, amitius. Well, that's already a gili of adova hakol. It's not the etzem, but it's like a description or a inen in the etzem mitzad the inen of the etzem. So the Rebbe says that even there, where it's a inen from gili already of the etzem, mitzad is being kolul in the etzem, and it's not mamish shleimas v'havdolas etzem. Nonetheless, he says harimas bezer u'bechinas reimamas. Atzmi, it's also Reimamas Atzmi. In other words, the Chiddush being that not just in Atzmusai, no, even in Gilui Mia Atzmus, Oria Ha'ora Mimenu is Borach, nonetheless it's also the same Reimamas. Now, of course, when we say the same, maybe Yesh was a Chilukim Kamur, but it's still in that same Geder of mitzad the Bilti Matthias Nimtza, with the whole Riches, it's Reimam Atzmi. Ukemoi, HaMelech HaMarimom, Livadoi. We say in Birchas Krishma that he's a Melech HaMarimom, Livadoi, Meyoz, in other words, primordial. So ask yourself to Shaila, how can it be a Melech if he's Marumam, Legamri, and he doesn't have anything on which to be a Melech? The whole inyan from a Melech is, that he's a Melech Alam. Ukemo, another dogma, Adoin Olam Asher Moloch, Beterem Kol Yitzu Nivra. Beterem Kol Yitzu Nivra. Before there was any form of a Yitzu Nivra, he was already, Moloch. Adoin Olam Asher, Moloch. So the Rebbe was it also as I'm in Sotinian that he's already Melech beli there being any geder whatsoever of a Yitzur or a Nivra. You can only be Melech of a subject. If there's not even any geder of subject, nobody even talking about them. It was a Shaykh Devinivan for Moloch. So he said, Shehuin in Reimamas Atzmi. He said, that's the inyan for Reimamas Atzmi. In other words, that the inyan from Adoin Olam Asher Moloch is indicative that oyer which is already called betoicha, betoicha etzem. In other words, it loy mi boy the etzem mamish, the etzem aboyroi, the etzem atzmi. Das is sicher, that he's merumim in the way that we described before barichas. The chiddush here is that even in a gilui mimenu, but the inyan from gilui mimenu is sometimes we said the inyan yechoilis at this particular madriga was that's not yechoilis is not anything yet. It's what you could. It's not that anything has really happened. It's just that you could do that or you have the capacity. The chiddush nifla b'zeh is that even though nothing actually happened, and maybe you could say, but Efshor is to say a thing like that. Maybe nothing would ever happen either. It's not mukrach mitzad the madrega that it's going to become a melech alam. Nonetheless, he said that since it's gone out of the etzem, it's already shot to talk about a inyan of ultimately there is going to be, even though madrega zu lo shayach al zeh, and mitzad the etzem level of that madrega could be there would never be. Aber Sokoto, wie Paul the Eivsha made as a Gilui, and that's what the Rabbeinu Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, he wrote the Adon Elam. Well, that's what he's mashmil anu. That in that madrege, if it's already a oyer, even though it's a dying kolo biatzmusay, there must be episa, some sort of a purpose, a kavana, a inyan in this that the oyer was mishkala. And therefore that's what in be tachus and hadinus lishoine hanoirah, well, that's what he's maramas. Adoin olam, Hashem, because Adoin olam also implies that he's an Adon over the inyan. He said in Shoirish, well, that's an inyan from Beterem Kol Yitzu Nivra, before there was even any shaykhs, even any necessity to say that there will be the inyan from Nivraim, but nonetheless there was a ha'ora, which that can already be called Mola, because Sokosof epis with the rest of them. Sokosof Mashu, Yemize. In that particular madrega, that's mitzat the Reimamas Atzmiyah. What's the inyan from Reimamas Atzmiyah? Mitzad echad. Reimamas Atzmiyah is the, like we said before, the Abdullah of the Atzmiyahs, Legamre, and Mitzad Hasheni, it's already Shayach on this level upon him to say that it's somehow Azus who shows what's eventually going to be the inyan Amalucha. The Chiddush is on that level, Ein B'zeh Kol Echrayach. And therefore he says, but Terem Kol Yitzu Nivra and Moloch nonetheless go together. Even though they are stira, but those are the B'yishuv ha'inyan. So now comes along the Rebbe in the brackets, and here we're going to meet up with a Pelidik Zach. And that is that berega what you've gone out of the atzmas, and berega what you said, you ain't talking about a gilui, mea atzmas, then l'chora you're moving into some sort of a world where you're going to have to, and you say moloch. You mean that ultimately this is going to be, although it's not, it is, and all these sort of almost like contradictory, and paradoxical statements. Im Kain says that, berega what you say that. In other words, the beer is that of etzem atzmusei mamish, maybe you wouldn't say a terem koyt, moloch terem koyt. It's not shaykh. And once you've got into this whole inyan, Im Kain, then you must have interrelated madregas. We could say that the Maila here is not the Maila Achmiyas of just built-in Matthias Nimtza, and that everything is bottled betachas a bitl mitzad the Havdalah of the Achmas. Maybe you could say that that's the Maila of that Achmas Ligabi. In other words, it's like, and we said before that Malucha can be mitzad the from Maila, but only on a much lower level. Of a mitzad the Etzem Amela, he's multu betachas Havdalah be'etzem atzmusei, not mitzad ma'alosei. If you say mitzad ma'alosei, then maybe you can even fall into matzia. So now that I was going to say, once you get out of the atzmas, and you use an expression like beterem kol netzu nirah, but nonetheless moloch, then you're saying that level's got a mila legabe other levels. You're already getting into this whole concept of the in and we're not trying to say that. So therefore the Rebbe says, Ein achanami, aber ein daiger. Sof kosof, even though it is a mila, or that mila is a mila achmiyas, in other words, that it's a mila with yesh bezim roimamus achmiyas, even though it's a mila. In other words, that it's the Rebbe sort of he feels the kasha, but the ordinary reader might not have even felt the kasha. But the Rebbe feels the kasha, and to a certain extent he finishes on a note where he has his cake and he eats it kavioch as well. In other words, the ein nachanami over mitzad hasheni. It's so part of the Giluy and the Kolor, betoicha atmins. So it's so part of Giluy atmins. It hasn't told the meaning for Ramos. Yeah, so we'll just read that quickly, and that'll be enough for this evening, and then we'll see as we go along. He said, "V'yesh lema de bazeh shayach inin reimamus hamayla. Da ha-reimamus shili yoshe atzmi, ha-reinu shayach bazeh mayla." Like we said earlier, lema shehu gavoya b'ma'alosei. Yeah, we can't say that. Meyacha, yeah, shehu atzmi, yeah, built-in Matthias Nimta. Ha-rezel hamayla megeh de inin ha-ilui. That's not tied to any Maila or Ilui, like we pointed out at Barichas at the beginning, earlier. He said, yeah, that oya is merumam b'ma losai. So you might say, well, who said? Maybe because it's kol in the atzmas. Maybe it's not merumam mitzad eza Maila, no. Bibalis is so close to the Atzmas, it's got all the inyan of the Atzmas. So therefore it brings the Alter Rebbe, a periodic raya from the famous piece there in Perek Gimel in Shara Yichud, and also in Perek Lamed Gimel in Tanya. There's also a Zayah Mashmois, that there's the Oya how it's kolo b'toich ha-moya ha-shemesh, and it's korav el ha-shemesh. What he says over there, that Oya is got a Maila over there, which is Meya La'oretz Oladorim, Oladorim Aleya. And Mamela said the Rebbe from that mashma that in that which is Mamish Kolu Be'atzmusei, there's a Maila Lagavide, the which is already Meya Be'esh or even B'toich HaCholol, and that's the famous Kal V'Chaim over there. He said, Ima Yochel Lahoye Aga Oretz V'Oladorim Koshkein Shu Yochel Lahoye Be. Yeah, Bim Koimei, so the Rebbe's Medayik was even from Koshkein to say the Zichat must be there. If it's out here, then it must be there. Wasn't the Koshkein with Kal V'Chaima? Yeah, that it's called, but means another gather of our altar. Here's a simon that they say. The fact you say it's another gather. and it's another Indian like Avidia, which is Maya, but Kala Oilam, and Kala Oilam is a simon that it does have a mile. If it's got a mile, then it's not the immediate in for Roimasa Achmias. So he says, yes, I agree, but nonetheless it's still Roimasa. Yeah, so Mir Hashem, in the coming class we'll see what we can do with that one, but Derech HaYishuv B'Prati is. כמו שכתוב בספר של ביניהם במשל זיו השמש, כמו שהוא בגוף כדור השמש, שהוא שום ביסס האש וביסס עוז. דהיינו שהאור שום בריבוי, ביסס, not only beribui, but be'oifen niliyat. Ribui is just the fact that he says that it's up there, and kol b'teicha, it's not meir. But you know what he says, that kal v'chema v'koshke v'kal v'chema shiyochel. Yeah, that makes it a nile ha'biyeza. And really you have to say that it's a nile. Legabi what? Legabi the which is only meir, also shredders to the inner oilemus. It's a simon that you are talking about, if it's a reimus mitzad meile. אבל גם זה הוא רואה ממסעצמי. אין לחנמי, יש תקר זה. היינו שהוא מרומם בעצם מחוסי, ואין הבחינס מציאס בעצמי, כמו העצם. Just like the עצם is אין המציאס בעצמי. So it is. I wish they dust over there in Tanya. If you just finish the way we finished, then you've got a real, as it were, Stira. No, he said, you see, the Alter Rebbe agrees with me. But the Alter Rebbe says over there, look over there carefully. And he said that a kol mamish b'toich hamoya, ein oil v'shem oil v'ziv klal, even though it is. It's an oil v'ziv. And it's Kosh came with Kal V'chim that it's B'ziv, and he said, "Ain't no Oil B'Shem Klal." You're assuming that it's both things. On the one hand, it is Oil B'Ziv. On the other hand, oh no, it's not. Yeah, as far as Atzmus is concerned, it's got all the, as it were, all the pomp of the Atzmus. The Chavis is a simon from Demloshen that you can have both. You can have a thing which is Mila, or that Mila is so immense, and that Mila is so profound that it gets into and remains in Reima Masatzmiyas. Thank you, my gentlemen, and have a good evening. Is and does it even from a river? Yes, that's even from a river. Reima Masatzmiyas, no matter what. Yeah, he might even look to you as if he's talking of das red Reimamas Atzmiyas. Yeah, it's Gilui, but it's got all the Eino Elo B'Shem Gilui. This is how to use the expression. It's just the Chareis Atzmiyas. Just the Chareis Atzmiyas. And that's the Indian what the Rebbe said on Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Holding out Rosh Chodesh, nobody said anything about Rosh Chodesh Kislev for the time. We're holding Rosh Chodesh Kislev. What did the Rebbe say on Rosh Chodesh Kislev? Toshin Nun, when was it, the famous Sikha? He said that the Etzem HaChayas has to be in the Etzem HaChayas. He said it's even higher than Chay Be'etzem. Chay Be'etzem is just a Gila. He said even higher than Yechida, notice the Etzem. Yeah, the Etzem Chayat, the Etzem Achiza, that a goof in the Nisham. We had that lesson earlier in Yerushalayim Beit. And that's what you gotta show we want Moshiach now. In them level, that's what you gotta say. Yeah, and then he goes on to say, yeah, the whole Yidam Atzmas and the whole Yidam Atzmas on Shoma and again to this. Remember, Yesh Lema doesn't the Kesher, doesn't the Shaykhs. All these Inyanim all come together, that if you get up in that level, then you've got to go to Shlema Belisov. It's just going to pour itself down. V'eshpeich, how does the Atman say? V'eshpeich es ruchi al kol basar. Stam ruchi, he said in some of them, in Chanukah, we're not far from Chanukah. The Rebbe said, Ruchi is Ohecha Madrei. We are talking about Nefesh Ruach, Neshama, and Ruchi, but Stam Ruach, the score of Ohecha. Avir, in Avir Gufa, Pnim, is a ganz Richa tot in some of them. V'eshpeich is Ruchi. Ja, Al Kol Basar. Nu muss ich bezahlen. We're all sitting around, we're all from Mata, and all sort of slapping our hand in the air. Oh, wish it time. We start found the kilo. It's most found the ene for Moshiach. It has to, it can't go on this way. Honest to say. Ja, the Mata is wheel, we go rare, me rega, I'll rega. And so, man, we said, we want Moshiach now. We something to say, even take with me out. Ein laharig v'dvarim ha'matayrim, I've only to talk about dvarim chiyuvim. And dvarim chiyuvim is that I've come to the conclusion, maybe I'm just some sort of old-fashioned person. I probably am. But I've come to the conclusion that the world of the media and the world of all the politicians and even the presidents of Medinas and all that sort of thing, even though they get elected by people, they don't really represent what is really happening in the world anymore. And the news and the whole media and everything, it's just one huge chipus after bluff. You know, it's just. I remember when I used to work in the old days, way back when I was in Australia, I worked in a newspaper. I worked for a bit of time in a newspaper. A story, you know, this whole, everybody's looking for a story. That's the whole. If you found a story, you're a brilliant journalist. You're how do you call it, a Moiche Shol Raw. What's a story? A story is a sipper. Remember, the whole way they present the world is a sipper. A sipper. And the whole way they act is unreal. And you talk with people, you meet people and just talk with them. Yeah, I'm not talking about, you know, in the underworld or something, but you meet them so-called, nice people and what it calls normal people, man in the street, you know, that type of stuff. You meet people and you talk to them, you get a very interesting reaction. Yidden, Nishidden, you know. And it's amazing. I was in a little village in England. I walked into a shop. Next thing a lady comes up and she says that she's into meditation. A little Goyish lady, you know, she comes, she's into meditation. And she's into thinking about Hashem and everything. And she believes that everything is with the Jewish people. I'm in mitten nowhere, way up in North Yorkshire, somewhere there. I don't know if she even sees it yet. And she sees me and this other, you walk into the shop, was by her, so I'm waiting to show the rob, you put up Sayyid. She comes running over, and she starts telling us the whole thing, and she asked me about the Shisha Ketovit, the 6 dimensions. What do you say about them, Rabbi? You know. So I start telling her about the Hashem Agdula, even from the Sheish Midas Lamadas, the Shores from the Shisha Ketovit, you know. She was boggle-eyed. And then she said she wants literature. You know, you said you Jews have to send me literature. She wants to read. I mean, what is going on around here? And even better than that, I was in a shop, a big shop. I gotta go. So I gotta go across to. Does anybody go in the direction of anywhere? Anybody have a car here? No. Small group, so I didn't know they had the car. Yeah. So anyway, it's I have to go. Well, first I'll have to go. But the Nakuda is that I come into a shop and it's a big shop and it's like a big department store. So you buy something, you go to the guys who there's a line of them and they're all wrapping in this, and then they take on the things they take the money, or they take your credit card or whatever. Nowadays people usually don't pay with money anymore. Yeah. I paid with money, I don't know. So I get up to this line, and this little Goyish fellow, you know, and it's a town way out of nowhere, you know. So I said to this little Goyish fellow, and he gave me my packet, and I paid him. I said to him, you must make sure to do a good deed. You have to do good deeds and bring the world to a better place. I said, I feel you bring the world to realization. Yeah, you have to be careful. You say Moshe, they sometimes get a bit mavul with it, isn't it? So all of a sudden he looks at me and he says, what? He didn't say, he couldn't believe that I'm saying things like this to him, you know. So I repeated it again very quickly, because people were waiting in the line, you know. And I says to him, and he says, oh, yes, you know, he said, yes. And then he said, yes. You know, he couldn't figure what the heck I was saying. And gradually it sort of sunk into him, you know. It stayed to he sort of get the idea. He thought I was complaining or something about it. He didn't believe that I was telling him a thing like that. You know? So it gradually sunk in. So we just walked past it. There's about 3 other guys that are standing there. And we walked past him. The last guy heard me say this to him. The last guy heard me say this to him, and he says to me, yeah, he said, for example, you should give a bit of tzedukah. I says that. I said, Mummy said that. Yes, I swing around, I look at this guy, and he had a Jewish-looking face, you know. The little fellow, he was a guy for sure, but this fellow, okay. So all of a sudden, you know, here were all these people standing around. He had a big pack line of people waiting for him. So I thought if I say to him, are you Jewish, it might embarrass him. He might want people to know that he's Jewish. As Shema Pliny Almani, you know. So I didn't want to say to him, are you Jewish, you know. So I said to him, do you speak in Hebrew? So I forget, I jabbered something at him that would make him realize that I'm asking him if he's Jewish, you know. So he looks at me and he sort of nods. He said, but I don't understand Hebrew. But he nodded his head. You understand? So what do you say to that? Way out in the middle of nowhere. And he heard me say to this little boy that you should do something good. And he said, oh yes, for example, I'll give him a little tzedukah. Why do you say that? Way out in the middle of nowhere.
He must be the only Jew in that whole village.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the only Jew in this whole village.
Yeah. It's a town. It's not just a village. It's a town. It's got a big department store. Come to us, he said, that you can never tell what you have to just say something nice to somebody. Doesn't matter what. You touch off something. Immediately, I said something to the little Goysher fellow. At the beginning he didn't get it, then he got it, and he said, oh yeah. He was pleased that I'd said something nice to him. He never hears a thing like that from a customer, you know. Never hears that. So he was pleased. And then all of a sudden, it touched off with a spark in some guy, you know, all of a sudden he said, oh yeah, let him give stock. I said, I bet you when he went home, he gave a bit of stock. I bet you he did. Because he said that's what it means, they give a bit of stock. So you want to tell me that the world's not, something's going on out there.